What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Lil Man. Today we gonna talk. Oh, hold on, my phone. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Lil Man. Today we gonna talk about some technicals, right? We talked about market structure, risk management. You know, just pretty much some basic Forex stuff, right? So today we're gonna talk about support and resistance. So what is it? Let's get into it. All right, so actually before we get into the video, this is gonna be something that I'm gonna start doing. So before every video, or before we actually get into the actual video, I'm gonna go through the internet and search for a quote, and whatever sticks with me, whatever I look at and just looks good, I'm just gonna write it down and we're gonna talk about it. So today's quote is, self-belief and hard work will always earn you success. So what does that mean? It means believing in yourself and basically putting into action will basically being consistent will get you where you want to be, right? And self-belief, that's automatic, right? You have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will, right? So you always have to believe in yourself first. And hard work, that's obvious, right? You have to put in the work to get where you want to go. You can't just sit around being lazy all day and just expect to make the goals that you want to make, right? So just having self-belief and being a hard worker will always earn you success. So that's the quote for today. Now let's get into the charts. Support, resistance, and trend lines. So these are pretty much basic, essential tools that you have in the market, and they're necessary to be able to chart and plot your analysis. So let's get into what they are and what they mean and how you can implement them in your trading. Well, I be fixing my hair about 30 times every video. Anyways, what color y'all want today? We gonna mess with I'm a little colorblind. This is like a little bluish, purplish. We're gonna tap in with the bluish, purplish. Blurplish. We're gonna tap in with the blurplish, all right? So support. So everybody play basketball, right? And when you dribble the ball, what happens? You dribble it, it hits the ground, it goes right back up, right? You dribble it again, hits the ground, goes up, right? You dribble it again, hits, obviously. So in Forex, there's this thing called support, right? And we use support to help us trade, right? So let's say when you dribble the ball, it bounces and comes back up, right? So let's say this area right here is the ground, right? And this is the trade, right? This is price. This is price. So when price comes to support, what is it gonna do? Well, just like that basketball, it's gonna bounce, right? And when it comes back, last time it came here, it bounced. So this time it comes here, what do you think it's gonna do? Bounce again, right? Come back, bounce again. Come back, bounce again. So obviously it doesn't do that every time it hits support, right? It could come and break support. So obviously it doesn't do that every time it hits support, right? So basically support is wherever you see price come to and bounce at, right? So let's say, for example, this is what the charts look like. All right, this is price. How many supports do you see in this picture, right? 1, 2, 3, 2, right? This area right here, because price bounced, bounced, bounced. And this area right here, right? Because price came in, bounced, bounced, bounced. So that's support, right? So that's basically support, right? And obviously it's gonna be harder to identify in the charts, but if you just keep things simple, it'll be easy. So let's get into resistance. I'm sorry, I cannot draw with this chalk. Anyways, resistance, right? So vice versa support, right? Let's say for example you're on a diving board, right? This is you on the diving board. Here's the pool you're trying to jump in, right? So let's say there's a ceiling right here. And when you try to jump into that pool, what do you think is gonna happen, right? You're gonna hit that mug, hit your head, probably get a headache, something, I don't know. But you're gonna jump and you're not gonna be able to go past the ceiling, right? Because it's the ceiling. So when you jump, you're just gonna hit it and then fall, right? So that's the same thing in trading, right? Whenever price comes up to resistance, it falls, right? Falls. Comes back up, falls. Come back up, falls. So it's just a ceiling, right? And basically resistance is, there's so many sellers right here, right? We're just gonna put an S for sellers. Because right when it comes up, sellers in the market pushing it down. Comes up, sellers in the market pushing it down. Comes up, sellers in the market pushing it down. And once it breaks resistance, the only place it could come back to, well, not only, it could just do whatever it wants to, right? But since it was so hard to break through this resistance so many times, couldn't break through. Tried to break through again, couldn't break through. Price has to come back right here, right? To test this. Because it couldn't break through it, couldn't break through it, couldn't break through it. So now once it comes back to test this, what is this going to turn into? Old resistance turns to new support. Old resistance turns to new support. Old resistance turns to new support. Old resistance, you got it right. So old resistance turns to new support. So once it comes back and hits this, what's it gonna do? Dribble the basketball, right? It's gonna bounce. It's gonna come back, bounce. So this is just basic resistance and support, right? Old resistance turns to new support. Old resistance turns to new support. So if we're in an uptrend and price failed to break resistance 3 times, it breaks it finally, it's gonna come back to test support, right? Because this level is where price failed to break 3 times, right? It failed to break this level 3 times. There was not enough buyers to push price past this level, right? So it couldn't break it. So that's resistance. And then once it breaks it, it comes back to test it. That's support, right? Because it comes back and all these this resistance turns to new support. So it comes back, hits support, goes up. Comes back, hits support, goes up, right? And the opposite of old resistance turns to new support is what do you think? Old, what is this, right? It came here and it bounced, right? So what is this? Support, right? Because it came there and bounced and went up. Came, bounced, went up. Came, bounced, went up. So this level is holding. So it's supporting the price, right? So it's support. So old support turns to, what is this now? What is this, right? Price came up, fell. Came up, fell. So old support turns to new resistance, right? And old resistance turns to new support. So it just depends which way the market's trending, right? So if we're trending down, if the market's going down like it is right now, because you can see it's heading down, old support turns to new resistance. If the market's going up, on the other hand, old resistance turns to new support, right? Old resistance, price couldn't break this, right? So it's resistance. Came up here and fell. So this point is resistance now. So old resistance turns to new support, right? So that's just basic market support and resistance, right? So whenever price comes and bounces away from it, bounces away from it, that's support, right? Whenever price hits it and falls, that's resistance, right? Support, resistance. Support is when you're dribbling the ball and it bounces. Resistance is when you jump off the diving board and you hit your head. You fall back down, right? All right, now let's get into trend lines, right? And what are trend lines? So trend lines are basically where price comes and touches a point and touches another point, and that third touch is where you just plot, right? You just do 1, 2, run it through. That's what we call it, right? Let me just show you. So let's say price came, hit here, came, hit here, came, hit here, came, hit here. So as you can tell by this, which way is price going? Up or down? It's going up, right? So a trend line is, we just mark it from this point right here because it's a low, right? So we mark it from this point to this point. And wherever it goes after that is wherever the trend line should go, right? So let's mark it from this one to this one. So that's the trend, right? 2 points, connect them two. So once you connect 2 points, we call it 1, 2, run it through. So we connected this point with this point. Now we're just gonna run the trend line through, right? And as you can see, price came back and tested it again and bounced. Tested it again and bounced. So basically what a trend line is, it's acting as support and resistance, right? Because support, once price comes there, it bounces at, right? Comes there, it bounces at, right? So a trend line is just basically support, right? An ascending trend line, right, is basically support. So price came, hit it, bounced. 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 So let's just say this, for example. If we have a trend line right here, price came, hit it here, hit it here. So we run it through, right? Price hit it 2 times, so we ran it through. And then price coming up, and see how this is old resistance right here, turn new support. Well, let's say this is resistance right here too, right? So price came, hit this, and fell. So this is resistance, and old resistance turns to new what? Support, right? So old resistance turns to new support. So you see how this trend line, every time it hit it, it bounced, hit it, bounced. This time it's gonna hit it as well as hitting support. Old resistance, new support. So it's gonna hit the trend line acting as support, and it's gonna hit the support level acting as support. So that's just 2 confluences right there. So normally if it just hits support, you'd be like, okay, it's going up. Okay, it's going up. But if it hit the trend line and support, that's 2 major levels right here, acting as support, right? So if price comes to this level, it's gonna bounce, right? So that's a trend line. And how you get a trend line, like we said, you just find where price bounces at, right? 1, 2, connect 2 points. These are the 2 points we connected, run it through. And every time price came to the trend line, it bounced and acted as support, right? So that's a trend line. There are also trend lines that go down, right? A trend line can go any way. It can go up, down, this way, this way, this way, here, like this. It can go anywhere, right? As long as it's connecting to 2 points and you're running it through and price is coming back to test it. It don't have to test it, but it just has to touch 2 or more lines, right? So let's say we're in a downtrend. The price came up, hit it, came up, hit it, came up, hit it. So now what is this trend line acting as? Is it acting as support? Every time it hits it, it goes and bounces up, or is it acting as resistance? Resistance, right? Because every time it hits it, it falls. Hits it, falls. Hits it, falls. So think you're hitting the ceiling when you're jumping off the diving board. We're going to jump, right? Jump in the pool, oh, ceiling, fall. Jump in the pool, ceiling, fall. So it's acting as resistance, right? So let's just say, for an example, price came, price doing this, this, and this, right? So we're going to connect 2 points, this point and this point, right? So let's connect it. 1, 2. So now we connected them, and you see how this was a third touch? So if price is here, right here, right? And it was coming up to hit this trend line again, what would you think? Would you think it would just go up, or would you think it would hit it and then fall? Because it already hit it and fell, hit it and fell. So the next time it comes up, hit it, and we're gonna fall, right? So let's just say we have this support level in here, right? Because this is support, because price came down here, hit this level, whatever level this is, and went up. So now we're gonna mark this as support, right? Because it bounced here, wherever this is, and went up. So let's mark this as support, right? So hit here as support, came up, hit the trend line, and broke through, right? So now, old support turns to new what? Resistance, right? So hit here as support, broke through, and now it's coming up. But now it's coming up to test this trend line that it fell at, hit resistance, right? It's acting as resistance, as well as this old support turning new resistance, right? So I just call these key levels. I don't really call them support and resistance. I just call them key levels. So if I see price coming up and hitting it, can't break through, and then finally breaks through, I just call this, I mean, obviously it's resistance, right? But it's just a key level in the market, right? So horizontal levels are basically just key levels. So this is a key level in the market because price acted as support, and now it's coming back to test as resistance because it broke through, right? If it didn't break through and it just bounced again, it would just be acting as support. Come back, bounce again, it'd be acting as support. But since it broke through old support, it's now coming up to test it, but not testing it as support, right? Because price is above it, it's under it. So it's testing it as resistance. So once it tests this trend line and there's resistance, there's two confluences, right? Because it's not just hitting resistance and falling, it's hitting resistance as well as a trend line. So that's just two things acting as resistance. So obviously it's going to be harder to push up and break past this, right? And keep going up because it's two obstacles in your way. So you have to fight the trend line and fight the horizontal level. So that's just basically trend lines, right? And basically what these tools are used for is just to help you find extra confluences, right? And there's more tools, but today's video is just over support and resistance and trend lines, right? But more videos will come. I'll start showing you guys more tools, well, the ones that I use, right? So in this video is just support, resistance, and trend lines. So support, right, is when price comes, hits it. And this level is supporting price, right? Because it's coming up, supporting, coming, supporting. It's bouncing it, right? Resistance is a key level where price comes and falls. Comes, falls, comes, falls. So we don't mark support and resistance. We don't just have this area in the chart, right? We have to see price do its thing, right? So if price came here and here and here, right? We wouldn't put resistance up here, obviously, right? Because there's no interaction, right? We would put it here because we see that price came here, fell, came here, fell, came here, fell. So we're like, okay, right here is some good resistance. And then obviously we just keep our horizontal levels far, right? Extend them out. So once price breaks this, comes back up, old resistance, turns to support, catch a buy, right trend, right? Something like that. So that's resistance, right? Trend line. Resistance, price comes, hits it, falls, hits it, falls. We have those 2 points, so we run it through. This third point came up, it's a trend line touch, so we're like, okay, and it's under the trend line, right? So it's acting as resistance. Price is over the trend line, be acting as support, right? So price came, hit it, bounced up, because this is support, but it's trend line, right? Hit it, bounce, hit it, bounce, hit it, bounce. So that's the trend line, right? Every time price comes, it hits it and bounces. And how we mark trend lines is, how I told you, right? So this is price. We don't just go in the charts and just mark up a trend line, right? No. We have to see where price interacts at, right? So we see that price made a low point right here, a higher low right here. So we're like, okay, we're just gonna mark these points right here, 2 points. One, 2, run it through, right? So we have 1, second point, now just gonna run it through, right? And then every time it hits that, it hits it and supports, right? So that's just a trend line. So now, let's get into the charts so I can show you better. All right, so let's start a new CAD, right? So support. let's see. So right here in this general area, try to look for support yourself before I actually mark it up. So where do you think it is? Remember, it's where price bounces at, bounces at, bounces at, and fails to break lower, and it's always the same place, right? It's always bouncing at the same place. So let's mark it up now. This would be support, right? Because you can tell price comes to hit it, hits it, bounces up, hits it, bounces up, hits it, bounces up, hits it, bounces up. So this is a clear level of support, right? And we can tell that because it doesn't break through. Every time it hits it, it just bounces, 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 until it finally breaks through right here. Let's go over another example. So right here, right? About that. Right here, where can we see support, right? Where can we find it? Where is price bouncing at multiple times without breaking through? So the floor, right? So as you can tell, it's right here, right? Because price hits it multiple times without breaking it, right? So it hits it, bounces up, hits it, bounces, 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 hits it, bounces straight up. So this is a good level of support, right? And let's move on to resistance, right? Because there's a good spot right here. So resistance is right here, right? Because you can tell price failed to break it, failed to break it, failed to break it. Came up here, fell, came up here, fell, came, fell, and finally broke it, right? So as you can tell, this is a clear level of resistance, right? So let's move on to USDCHF. In resistance, support and resistance, everything in Forex is really dynamic, right? There's not one perfect support resistance place, right? So you can draw this right here. That's good, right? That's support and resistance, right? Support in here, support, bounce up, support, bounce up, support, bounce up. And it's broke through right here, resistance, fell, resistance, fell, resistance, fell, right? There's no perfect way to plot it, right? Some people do it from the wicks, so from these little wicks right here, this one. Some people do it like that and just grab all the wicks. Some people do it from the bodies, so the bodies is like the candlesticks, right? So they do it from like the bodies. So get all them bodies, come up here and get those. They do it like that. It's really dynamic, right? Just whatever looks good to you, as long as you're getting support, right? So as you can see, we covered this wick, this wick, this wick, and then came up here, right? So as long as it looks good to you and you can tell that it's a support and resistance area, key level, right, then it's good. There's no right or wrong way to plot support and resistance. So let's just go to the daily, right? And let's just plot all the supports. So if we're looking right here, right, let's just go through the chart. We can tell that it's the support level right here. Price hit, false breakout, came back up, support, 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 and then broke through. Alright, you can also tell it's another support right here. Because it hit, bounced, and it finally broke through. We can also tell there's another support level right here, right? Because it hit, bounced, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce. So those are 3 levels of support right there, right? So in support, all you look for is when price is heading down, right? So as you can see, price is heading down right here. So whenever it just hits a level, so right here, if it was right here in time, right, and then hit here and then bounced up, and then hit here again and bounced up, we'd be like, okay, it's acting as support right here, right? So we'll just plot our support and resistance line, right? And then right here as well. Hit, bounced up, hit, bounced up, hit, bounced up. So this is a good level of support, right? So it's just anywhere where price comes. Anywhere where price comes and hits and bounces, right? Hits, bounces, hits, bounces. So price can hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce. So that was a support, right? Now resistance on the other hand, is when price is going up, right? And it's failing to break higher, right? So let's plot out these resistances real quick. So as we can tell, there's one right here. This price failed to go up, failed to go up, failed to go up, and then finally broke it, right? So this level right here is a good resistance level, right? There's another level right here. And if we go to lower time frames, you'll be able to see it better. So I'll go to lower time frames after. But price hit here and it fell. Hit here, fell. Hit here, fell. Hit here, fell. And then finally broke, retested, and went up, right? There's also another level right here, right? So price hit, fell, hit, fell, hit, fell, hit, fell, hit, fell. So these are good levels of resistance, right? Because price is failing to break through. It's going up and then falling, going up, falling. So let's go to lower time frames so you can see it better. Because remember, like the bigger time frames are basically just like scaled out price, right? Just zoomed out. The lower time frames are just zoomed in basically. But you have to use all time frames to just help with your analysis and just help with confluence, right? Top down analysis is the way to go. But anyways, as we can see, price hit and it fell, right? Hit, fell, hit, fell, hit, fell. It's not always going to be perfect resistance, right? It's not always going to be exactly here, exactly here, exactly here, and fall, right? No, not at all. It could be here, 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 right? Just as long as we are grabbing all that, right? So that's resistance, right? It's not always going to be perfect. Of course, sometimes it's going to be just like this, but it's not always going to be like that, right? Sometimes it's going to have choppy movements, right? Just like this in the 4-hour. This is still resistance, right? But it's not perfect, right? It don't come right back up right here, just like these two, and go down, come right back here and go down. No, it's all dynamic, right? All right. Let's go find some more, right? Right here. So as you can tell, price came and it fell, right? Came up here, fell, came here, came here, came here, fell, right? So this is a good level of resistance, right? Good level. Because price failed to break through it, right? So as you can tell, resistance is just whenever price comes up, it falls, right? Comes up, falls, comes up, falls. And then we just mark that area as resistance, right? All right, let's get in trend lines now. So a trend line, remember, it's just marking two points, and then connecting it through, right? So let's mark 2 points. So we're gonna mark this point with this point. And you see how we connected this to this point, and then it also supported this, and then went up, right? So the next time price comes down to this trend line, we'll think that it'll bounce up, right? Let's mark another place. Let's mark this and this. So as you can tell, we mark this point to these wicks, right? So 1, 2, this is all 2, but it's also like 5 touches. But 1, 2, and then run it through, right? So we run the trend line through. And then later on, price comes up here, what does it do? Act as resistance, right? It might start falling, start falling, right? So that's just trend lines. Let's go find some other examples. All right, so let's mark it again, right? We're gonna mark this point to this point right here, right? So as you can tell, price came, hit it, came, hit it again, and bounced up, right? It's not always gonna touch it and go straight up, right? Obviously, Forex would be too easy if it did that every time. So hit it, came up, hit it, tap, tap, go up, hit it, tap, go up, hit it, tap, go up, finally broke, right? All right, so let's use our trend lines, right? We're on a daily time frame. So let's just plot this point to this point, right? All right, so we have 1, 2, run it through, right? And let's just act like we're gonna be trading this, but I'm just gonna mark the charts here. So we have one touch, right? So the next time price comes and touches it, what are we going to expecting? Are we going to expecting price to just touch it and go fall through? Are we going to expecting price to touch it and bounce as support, right? Since the last time it hit it, supported. Last time it hit it, supported. So this time when it hits, it acts as support. And also, we got this resistance right here, right? So as you can tell, price failed to break above this resistance, right? Failed, drop, failed, drop, failed, and now it finally broke it, right? So this is one confluence right here, because as we can tell, old resistance is going to be turning into new what? New support, right? As we went over. And since this is old resistance, next time price comes up and taps here, it's going to turn into support, right? So we have one touch acting as support, one touch acting as support, and then three touches acting as support, right? Along with this resistance turning new support. So we're getting this trade, buy. You know, obviously it's going to be more confluences than this, but this is what it'll look like. Just resistance. Price came up here, made a higher high, right? So let's just go over this, act like this is a trade. So this is a low. This is a high, right? Now this is a higher low, higher high, higher low, because this is higher than the previous higher low, and then price made a higher high, right? Right here where it's at right now. So next, price is going to come right here to make this higher low, if it even does that. We don't know what price is going to do, obviously, right? But if it comes down here and it starts pushing up, this will be the next higher low right here, as well as a trend line touch and resistance. So if price were to come here and reject, along obviously if we had more tools helping us. So as you can see, there's some moving averages lining right here, right? Along with, call this a Fibonacci retracement, along with a low fib. As you can tell, the 50-mile lineup, 30-mile lineup. So this is looking like a good trade, right? All right. So as you can see, we have this right here, right? And this is price. So we're going to connect 1, 2 right here, right? And then run it through, right? And my trend lines automatically run through. I don't have to mess around with it. But just 1, 2, and run it through. So as you can see, next time price were to come up to that line, what did it do? Came up and then dropped, right? And then it'll come up again, drop, right? Whatever. And as you can tell, let's just mark support and resistance real quick. So as you can tell, price came here, bounce, came here, bounce, came here, bounce, came here, bounce. And you can tell there's a little leakage right here, right? Because price is not always going to be exactly good support. It's not always going to be exact support, right? It's not always going to come right here, bounce up, come right here, bounce up, come right here, bounce up. No, this is just a false breakout, right? So it got sellers. They thought the market was breaking out and then pushed price right back up, right? People call this stop loss manipulation, whatever. Just know how to mark your support and resistance, right? Just catch all the wicks. So we got that wick, that wick, that wick, that wick, that wick, that wick, and then bodies and wicks up here, right? So as long as you get most of the wicks and everything that you need, right? And you can tell that it's hitting support, hitting support, hitting support, hitting support, hitting support, and then coming up here and dropping, right? So this wouldn't be support and resistance, right? If price were to just do this. As I said, it's not exactly perfect, right? But it leaked out right here and came back up, right? Just one leak, right? Everything else looked cool. But if price were to come here, act resistance, 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 and then just start doing this, would this level be clear anymore? No, right? Because it's doing all this crap. It's not acting as resistance, breaking, and acting as support. It's just falling through, right? So that would be invalid, right? So that would not be a good resistance. But right here, it's hitting, going up, small leakage, false breakout, then going up, support, 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 right through, resistance, resistance, fall, right? And over here, we can mark it again. Right here, right? Hit, fell. I mean, not fell. Hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, played along with the level, fell, broke through. And this right here, you'd be worried, but it's still good support and resistance, right? Obviously, because it broke through and hit resistance, 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 and fell. support, support, hit, small leak out, came back up, hit, support, support, support. Price finally broke through, came back up, tested, it fell, right? Now it's acting as resistance because it's not breaking past this, right? It's not breaking past this. So it's acting as resistance, right? So right here, right? I'm gonna put one plot, and we're gonna mark it up to this one right here, right? So 1, 2, run it through. So hit here, basically hit here, right? Hit here again, it fell, right? So it's acting as resistance, and it caught this one. So we just marked this one to this one, and already it's hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, fell, 5, fell, and now it's just playing around, right? And this is because they're Corona, so obviously it's not going to respect technicals too much. But as we can see, we potted 1, 2, and ran it through. So if we had support right here, right? Because price failed to break through this, failed to break through this. Now we just put it out, failed to break through, finally broke through, showing bearish action, and now it's coming up to test. Old support turns new resistance. Trend line touch, trend line touch, trend line touch. Resistance, resistance. Double confluence, and price fell. And actually, let me show you where to put a stop loss and everything on this trade too, even though we're not talking about that. If you were listening to last video, so on this trade right here, obviously I'm gonna go over stop losses and take profit levels in videos down the road. But right here, you would probably get in right here, right? Obviously, you wouldn't get in. I mean, some people get in right here, but I'll wait for price start pushing down to show that it's starting to make the move that I want. Put your stop loss in. So my stop loss will probably be over here somewhere, right? Because you don't want to put it right here, because price could just come up here and hit all these stop losses and then come right back down, right? So you want to have it in a safe place. So put it like right here. So just in case price were to come, do this, hit this, break back under, fall. You wouldn't get stopped out, right? You would have enough room for your trade to breathe because your stop is up here. So we'll put our stop loss here, and then we'll aim for a 1 or 2, right? 1 to 1, 1 to 2, however your system is, right? But I aim for 1 to 2s. So 1 to 2 risk to reward, and as you can tell, price went down, went up, went down, hit our take profit, right? So we don't want that trade with a 1 to 2 risk reward. So if you risked $100, you would have made $200 out of that trade. But yep, that's just basic technical support resistance, right? What's good, YouTube? So man, I ain't doing my hair, so I'm finishing this like this, you feel me? But hey man, I appreciate y'all for watching the video. If you stayed through to the end, really appreciate you, and hope you get a lot of value. Go to the comments right now if you learned something, and drop one thing that you learned. And stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, tap in with that bell so you can stay tuned with the vids, you know what I'm saying? And see y'all later. Peace out.